I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Good afternoon and welcome to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller on this fine Friday, December 10th. It's also my mother's birthday, so we're going to shout out my mom. We have a packed day today for Talk Today. Our first guest this afternoon, we're welcoming Carleen Bramwell and Rhonda Cornwall as we talk about coping with grief and loss over the holiday season. From 1 p.m. onwards, we will have a discussion on suicide awareness and prevention and how we as a community can better support those struggling with their mental health. We're going to throw it back for a quick disclaimer and a commercial break, and then we'll be back with our first guests.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Welcome back to Talk Today, and this is Kathy Miller. I'm your better looking version of Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, you know? So I think that our guests in the studio, they might agree with that, you know?
We agree.
Good afternoon, ladies. Welcome to Talk Today. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, thanks.
Good, thank you.
Good. And just a reminder to our listeners, I have in studio with me this afternoon Carleen Bramwell and Rhonda Cornwall, and we are discussing coping with grief and loss during the holidays. Ladies, this is a very timely subject right now. We know that we're losing more people than expected. Every year there's going to be some deaths, and usually our elderly, we brace ourselves for those motor vehicle accidents, and we know that there's heightened mental health issues going on. So there's that, and then there's COVID, the COVID-related deaths. So it's a lot for our community to take in. Mm-hmm. And this is our first year and time really experiencing those COVID-related deaths as well. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot. There's a lot of grief in our community right now, and we have to address it. How we can get through, how we can get by, and grief is nothing to be ashamed about. We all go through it. So how can we support each other while we are experiencing grief? So.
Exactly.
Tell me what you have planned.
So let me start off with how this idea came about in the first place. So in June, for the first time in the Cayman Islands, we actually recognized International Widows Day. And I know a lot of people don't know what that is, but so we did that in June. And at that session, we actually invited widows to come and speak about their experiences, what are some of the issues that they face, etc. And of course, grief is one of those things. And no matter how long it has been since you've lost a spouse or you've lost a family member, you know, there are always residual effects of that, practical day-to-day sort of situations and so forth. From that, this is kind of a spin-off of that, but we're actually opening it to more persons. So whether you're a male, female, young, old, whatever, and it doesn't matter whom it is that you have lost or how it is that you lost them or how long ago it was that you lost them. We wanted to ensure then that the community has an outlet to actually get some of those tips. Because of course, I mean, I myself have actually lost 3 uncles within this period of time of COVID over the last 2 years. Wow. Not on island, so that makes it even harder to some extent. So I feel what, my aunts are experiencing, for example, knowing that their husbands of how many years are not there. And even just from my own perspective as a niece, at this time of the year, I would have been perhaps going to their homes, for example, for the holidays. So I thought it was important to bring this point of view to our awareness at this time, because a lot of the time, as you said, we're all about joy, and don't recognize that there are people who are hurting during this period as well. Right. So myself and Rhonda got together and we said, okay, we're going to do a session specifically around this during the holidays, and that's why we're here. So we're going to have the actual session on Saturday the 18th, which is very close to Christmas, obviously. So hopefully then, even more so, the tips will actually be very helpful at that time.
Okay. Did you want to add to that, Rhonda?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that's so important to note, too, is especially for those persons who've just lost someone, this is the first holiday season without their loved one. And that in itself can bring so much anxiety, and you don't know what to expect and how you're going to deal with the holidays. And so I think this session, the way that we've structured it as well, is to be able to provide information about grief, some tips on how to cope, but it's also geared to be an interactive session that people can ask questions and support each other as well, because one of the things that we know about grief is that it's very individualized.
Yes.
It's unique to all of us, and our experiences are all different. And so when you get a group of individuals who have experienced grief together, there's a lot of learnings that come out of that, because their individual experiences often help each other. Mm-hmm. And so as a grief coach, it's always a great thing for me to be able to sort of facilitate those discussions with people. And that's what I'm hoping this session will do, help people to walk away with tips, but to also realize that they're not alone.
Yeah, very important, because most people feel alone.
Yes.
Especially after losing somebody, and that could be your spouse. It's, where's your other half?
Yes, and even those questions can just trigger you,
right.
So even if you had lost a person 10 years ago, again, it comes to your consciousness at that time. Mm-hmm. And, I'm thinking even just writing Christmas cards that, or sending a greeting, you may automatically say myself and whomever, and then you're like, oh, they're not here, sort of thing. And then that can again trigger those sorts of feelings. Yeah.
I was in a chat room this past week, actually, and they were talking about the holiday season and why the holiday season can be difficult for some people. So I think, Ron, it was you who mentioned that there's so much joy that's usually celebrated, and we expect to feel it. It's I don't want to say it's pushed on us, but it's everywhere.
Yes.
Like it's just part of it's a merry season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we might not be recognizing people who may have lost somebody, why they don't necessarily want to celebrate the holidays. Mm-hmm. And it could be because maybe your parent or a sibling or a loved one, a friend could have died during the holidays. So this period is triggering for them.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, I think for those who are grieving during the holidays is there's always, sometimes you mentioned the pressure, right? But to sort of put on that mask to say that I'm okay. I feel the need to present myself in a happier mode when you're really sad. And so, I think just being able to have those discussions about it and to realize that, okay, it's okay to be, feeling this way. And the holidays especially heightens those feelings.
Yes.
Because, you're missing the person. And let me also say too that people aren't just experiencing loss because of death. There are other hardships that people are going through now that grief can be a result of, lost jobs, the inability to provide for their families during this time. It's all about buying gifts and all this kind of stuff. Well, what happens to the person that doesn't have income now, right? That's going to bring a lot of grief as well, and they may be facing that for the first time this holiday season. And so we want to make sure too that those persons feel like they are welcomed as well, because their grief is real. It's not just grief isn't just related to a death of an individual, but also grief is related to anything that we've lost that's significant and meaningful to us.
And I'm glad that Rhonda said that, because I was going to expand on loss, because loss could be the loss of a relationship. So this may be the first year without a partner that you have spent a lot of time with, etc. So it's all of those types of losses that we need to be looking at, and for the rest of us, the community, to also be sensitive to that. So we don't put on the pressure on the person. We don't expect certain things. We are mindful of what we're saying, of what we're doing, etc.
The mindfulness is so key. And as you said, it doesn't have to be like the loss of somebody's life to be a loss. So if it's a loss of a relationship, for example, the holidays can be a very triggering time, because you're seeing couples and their family photo shoots, or a photo shoot with your loved one, and then or there's the Christmas parties and dinners and the invite, your plus one. And then you go, where's your plus one? Why don't you have a plus one? And sometimes that's just, you don't want to hear that anymore. And so it's the sensitivity of, don't ask those questions to people. where's their plus one, or why they might not want to be joining a function. It just might not be comfortable for them right now. But if they are coming, try to make them as comfortable as possible when you know that they may have suffered something. They may have just come out of a relationship or lost their job. Don't make people forced to bring their joy out if they're not experiencing that right now. And I think with the holidays, you don't always want to express how you're feeling, because you don't want to bring down other people's moods. So it can be, that pressure is there, and how do I act? How do I deal with it?
And I think ignoring it also doesn't help.
Oh, absolutely not.
The community ignoring it doesn't help. You ignoring it as a person experiencing it doesn't help either. But it's how then that we cope with that, and how it is that we deal with all of those feelings, and then not to let it turn into something way more severe. And as you talked about, you're going to be talking to some of the persons in the mental health profession in the deeper aspects of that. So it's all of those things combined, and I think that in general we need to be about the welfare of people, and that encompasses everything, the financial, the physical, the emotional, all of that is what that encompasses.
I agree, and I think if anything, that one of the biggest lessons for me during the pandemic and during our lockdown was how much we do need each other. And how much just a simple phone call to somebody. Some people aren't very good at just being locked in and not being able to socialize at all. So even just a simple phone call, reaching out to people, just helping them get through it does wonders.
Yeah, that's true.
We have to go to a commercial break right now. I know Susan is extremely happy I'm on time with this break, so we're going to bring you a few of those messages, and then we'll return back to this conversation.
Freedom, Kim and Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go, pure and cleaner.
It's that time of the year, and we are ready to help you with your household cleaning needs, and that is bedspreads, comforters, duvets, duvet covers, drapes, and also wearing apparel. All items at 10% off prepay, and turnaround time will be 2 to 3 days. Orders can be handled at all 3 stores: Elgin Avenue 949-2452, Savannah Countryside 946-1884, and Eastern Avenue Drive-Thru rain or shine. 949-7104. That's 949-7104. All stores close at 5:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert, available for limited time at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
You can now register online to receive a securely verified digital copy of your COVID-19 vaccination status with QR code through the My HSA patient portal. Sign up is available online and at all HSA locations. All you need is your photo ID showing date of birth and an email address. Visit hsa.ky and click the My HSA patient portal icon to get started.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Cash is a must this Christmas! JN Money Cash Must Christmas. Send or receive funds with the JN Money this holiday season to win big! JN Money Cash Must Christmas.
Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I am in studio this afternoon with Carleen Bramwell and Rhonda Cornwall. Rhonda is a certified grief coach, and she has a company called Hope's Dwelling, which will help you if you're going through grief. She will help coach you through that. So we're gonna talk more about what she does and how she deals with coaching people through grief. And I'm also here with, I said, Carleen Bramwell of the Gender Affairs Unit. Mm-hmm. Now, Carleen, yesterday when I was trying to get the information on today's subject, and I called a couple of different departments, reaching the wrong person, and I was like, I need to Google which department does Carleen work in? And you are a celebrity in Cayman, as far as I'm concerned. There's so much coverage on you, so many accolades on you. And
clearly, I need to Google myself.
You need to Google yourself, absolutely, because I was
like,
how have I not met this woman yet? So there's a lot that you're doing in the community, so much so, and I mean, it's been very well received. So having an information session like this, kind of a workshop, it's a seminar that you guys are calling it. It's called Coping with Grief and Loss During the Holidays. That's the topic. And it's a free session led by a professional grief specialist. It'll provide tips and suggestions to deal with the loss of a loved one, family member, and specifically partners or spouses during the holiday season. The session is open to adults of any age and stage of life. Now, if people are interested, and I'm sure you have a network of people that you already deal with that are going through grief, but people that have no idea, and they need a support group or they want to go to the seminar, how would they?
So let me say that this may actually be one of the first of its type inside in this sort of scope, I would have to say. I know that there are a number of other institutions that actually do different sorts of sessions. I think Jasmine does something, some of the private counselors do something, etc. But I think from a wide perspective, this may be one of the first of this type. My title, just for those who think that I may be a celebrity, which is not so at all, is actually Senior Policy Analyst for Gender, Diversity and Equality. And then people may wonder, so how does this come into that? And the point is that I believe that if policy does not reach people, then we're not doing our job. So there is an operational side of that, which is then about the welfare of people, you know. Right. So what we have done with this session, as we said before, is we're looking at everybody. Anybody can come to this. And just going back to what we were talking about, how it started in the first place. When we did International Widows Day, there was actually a man that came and he was like, so why isn't there one for us? You know, why is there not a session for us? And out of that, we decided, you know, it is important to open it wider. And so to register for this, persons can actually email me at carleen.bramwell2.gov.ky, or my WhatsApp number is 926-0143. So you can call, text, WhatsApp, whatever. Just register before Wednesday coming, the 15th of December. This is going to be both in person and virtually. So we are aware of the COVID protocols. Those will be in effect. And hence, that is why we need to know exactly how many people we'll be expecting in the space. And it will be held at Parcel 110, which is 40 Royal Plaza. So it's right opposite where Scotiabank, the old Scotiabank was. I know a lot of people may not know that location. And I'd really like to thank Parcel 112 for actually offering their space to us for free. And this is what we talk about when we talk about community partnerships. Because if there is not a government space, for example, available for different reasons, then it's good when the community can offer things, you know, for the good of the community. Absolutely. So I'm glad for that. Yes, so email, text, whatever, find me, register by Wednesday, and you'll be on the list.
And the location of Parcel 110, what's interesting about that, well, that's the name of their collective, you could say, Parcel 110. Mm-hmm. So that's not the actual address. So it's on Cardinal Avenue. And if people can just think, you're going above like Penha, Mac Cosmetics, there's that little business door area where you can go up. So that's the best I can tell you. It's 40 Cardinal Avenue, and it's Parcel 110. That's a group of people who are very much into arts and creating things. Mm-hmm. So they get it when it comes to having people come together and share their thoughts, what they're going through, because just the energy from that alone can be very powerful and transformative.
Exactly.
So big up to Parcel 110 for hosting you with this information seminar on, I was about to say the wrong date, you know. It's the 18th.
So that's Saturday
December
the 18th. 1 week essentially before Christmas. And it will be from 10 to 12. It will be interactive, as Rhonda said. So there will be a piece of it that obviously online we can do that, and you will see what's also happening in the room and so forth. And just to say that one of the things that we hope to do in the new year as well is to have more of these sorts of sessions, so that it's not just a one-off thing. Because I think a lot of times, and this happens too with giving, and we think about all the charities at Christmas, but yet, you know, when Easter comes, nobody's thinking about what is needed. So I think just as for the giving and the receiving and all of the other issues, every day people deal with grief of some sort.
Absolutely.
Mental health issues of some sort, emotional, you know, instability of some sort. So I think we have to remain sensitive and mindful throughout the year. So we hope that this will be something that we can actually do more of in the new year.
I hope so, because Easter's it's a holiday.
Exactly.
It's another celebration that calls on a lot of family and friends, spending time with your loved ones. And it's not just this Christmas holiday season that people are triggered from. things could have happened with them during the holidays, or it's just another reminder.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think too, the thing to realize too, when we talk about the loss of a loved one, or in especially that type of loss, because if you've lost a job, there is a period of grieving for that, but you may get another job. But when you lose a loved one, there's no replacement for that loved one. And so you live with that for the rest of your life. And so individuals don't get over that. And so there will be times throughout, the year that it's really meaningful and sometimes really trigger that grief for them. So, for instance, the loved one's birthday, the anniversary of their death, those kind of things. Those are times when you have to be really sensitive for people, because those are times when they're maybe grieving more, and that's throughout the year. And so, it's great to hear the desire to do that. On a year, sort of a throughout the year basis, because I think sometimes people that are, dealing with grief sometimes get forgotten, and they hurt by themselves sometimes. And one of I think when I first started my coaching business, one of the things that sort of my motto was, no one should have to go through grief alone, or go through loss alone. There should always be someone there that you can turn to find support, because it happens at any time, and that's just the nature of loss and just grieving, is that it can you can be okay this minute and turn around in the next minute and you're not. And so it's good to have people that you can turn to if you need that kind of support.
And I think it's also important that other persons know how to give that support, because it's always sort of awkward. You don't know what to say, if to say, how to say, etc.
What are your some suggestions on how we can give support to those who are going through grief?
Well, the first thing I would say is, ask the person, right? Like, how can I support you? Because again, we're not educated on how to deal with loss and grief, right? Like, we get education around other things, other kind of emergencies in life, things, crises that happen, sort of thing. But no one talks about death. No one talks about grief and how we should handle it and how we should support other people, or even support ourselves. And so I think sometimes it's just asking people, what do you need? How can I support you? Because everyone may be, different as well. What they need is different. And so we can't apply one sort of, method to everyone. We have to really, take the time. And that's the other thing, right? Like, if you're going to approach someone that's grieving to ask for help, make sure you mean it. Because, the thing that hurts the most, I think, sometimes for people is you say, yes, I want to be there to support you, but then when they turn to you for support, you can't be found, or you can't dedicate the time, or don't want to dedicate the time. And so make sure that you're in a position to be able to really support if you extend that.
That's super key, Rhonda. And I say that because often people will respond to you and say, let me know if you need anything, or let me know how I can help you. But it's almost in passing, just how you might pass somebody in the hallway, good morning, how are you? But you're not sticking around to hear about the how are you. It's almost automatic to be said. So oftentimes when people say that, you don't respond to them because it's not felt like you can't. It's not felt genuine, or you can perhaps count on them.
Yeah, and it's important, because if we stop and put ourselves and empathize with people, right, that are grieving and feeling that pain and loss, first of all, it takes courage to reach out to people and say, I'm in need. Sure. I need support. So if they've taken that step and they receive rejection on that, or it seems as if, though, you're not available, then that only reinforces the idea that I am alone. Yes. And there's nothing more painful than feeling the loss and knowing that the person that you want or the thing that you want to comfort you isn't available, and then you reach out for help, and there's rejection in that end as well. Yeah. And so, I'm with Carleen when she says that we as a community have to be mindful of how we're treating others who are grieving, to know that, it's not an easy thing, especially when it's something that, or someone that's been really significant to you, to not have access to that individual or that thing. It's hurtful, it's painful. And so, I think we just need to be sensitive and caring when we're dealing with, those that are grieving.
All right. We're going to go back to what some of those more tips when we return from a commercial break.
Savannah Pharmacy. Shop local and get a head start on your Christmas shopping. For ladies' handbags, clothes, shoes, fragrance, candles, and cosmetics with the newest Farmhouse Fresh line of skincare. For the gentlemen, clothes, shoes, fragrances, gift sets, and toys and games for the kids. Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs. And convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Study local and go far this spring. Want to start your bachelor's or associate degree, or just need a few classes to complete? Registration is now open for spring classes at UCCI. Scholarships are available for the spring semester, but you need to act now to meet the deadlines. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky to enroll now. Classes begin January 10th. Enroll by December 1st for a chance to win an iPad or a laptop.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 31st of March, 2022. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you.
Feeling safe in your community is paramount to overall well-being. At the Security Center, we've been securing businesses, home, and infrastructures for over 20 years. This year, we're proud to receive the Global Seal of Approval from the International Organization of Standardization for our products, services, and operations, making the Security Center the first security firm in the Caribbean to achieve this level of certification. When it comes to putting security first, think Security Center, protecting your world 24/7.
Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its valued customers of the following holiday hours at both its Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac offices. Friday 24th December, office hours 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Cashier will close at 11 a.m. Office will reopen Wednesday 29th December. On Friday 31st December, office hours are from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Cashiers will close at 11 a.m. and office will reopen on Tuesday 4th January 2022. The board, management, and staff of the Water Authority wishes its customers and the public a safe and healthy holiday season.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And in studio this afternoon, I have Carleen Bramwell and Rhonda Cornwall. We are discussing coping with grief and loss over the holiday season. Right before the commercial break, we were talking about how somebody can support somebody else who is experiencing grief. And Rana was giving some tips, and the tip that we went over was to ask how you can support somebody that is going through a grieving process, because as you did mention, grief is a very individualized process, so it's not going to be one solution for the person that is going through grief. That the way you can support them might not be the same way you can support somebody else that is going through it. So did you want to wrap up with any other tips on that? Because I do want to hear your experience and how you became a grief coach. Yes. It doesn't seem like something that people would want to go into coaching for.
Yes, indeed. But yes, just in terms of going back to that point, again, you're right when you say that, that we have to make sure that we're looking at individuals as individuals and their grief, even within families. Sometimes we'll think that one approach to the entire family would be okay, but again, let's look at the fact that the relationship is different, right? Like, you have the wife, the mother, the sister, the brother, like all these relationships are different. And so they're going to feel that loss different. And so I think, if we can stop and think about it from that perspective, it can help to guide us in how we approach individuals. But to, share the story and how I became a grief coach. We had a discussion off air about how there can be things that come out, blossom because of our loss, opportunities that happen because we've got this life experience. And for me, that's my story. So I actually trained as a professional counselor. And so my goal was to, do counseling. I really wanted to work with the youth as well. Grief was nowhere in my, thoughts. Although my I had experiences in grief. I worked in a trauma hospital, dealing with death and loss as well. But again, I was like, that's too heavy. That's not something that I want to do. And then after I, became trained, my father, got ill and died 4 years ago. And going through that grief myself, I realized how life-changing grief can be and how loss can impact one's life. And at that point, I couldn't look at anyone else grieving and not want to help and not want to support and be there for them, because I understood what that loss could potentially mean for them. And so out of my experience, out of my loss came Hope's Dwelling, because I realized that I needed to take my loss, my pain, everything that I learned, everything that I experienced, to be able to help other people go through that journey themselves. And so that's the other side of loss, is that there are opportunities that come out of it, that you become so much more resilient as well. And if you stop and think about the things that you're able to input into other people's lives because of your experience, it doesn't become this thing of just pain and something to avoid, doom and gloom. But if you look at the opportunities that you can grow from, there's much growth that can happen, and there's much that you can do for other people as well. So that's kind of how Hope's Dwelling got started, and how I, became a grief coach. And there's absolutely, it's weird to say it, but there's nothing else that I love doing than being able to support other people, because I know the difference that it makes in people's lives.
That's amazing. That's great. I commend you for that. It's a hard thing to do. You mentioned it's quite heavy. Yeah. It's how do you get your break after, going through these conversations and helping people deal with their pain. How do you know, it's hard not to absorb that.
Yes, it's true. But interesting enough, and honestly, I really just have to say it has to be the grace of God, because normally after I have gone through a session with someone, I'm not drained. I'm actually energized. And I think it just goes back to, the heart of what I do and why I'm doing it, because I know that it's making a difference in people's lives. And when I can see someone who may have been burdened by grief starting to get the joy, starting to realize that life can go on, it's something that gives me hope as well. And so, but it is also important for me to care for myself. And, one of those things that I know that I need to do is make sure I get enough rest, make sure that I am dealing with my own grief, make sure I have people that support me, people I can turn to share what's happening with me, understand when I'm in a very particular sensitive time and not dealing with clients and their grief during those times. I think we all have to learn about ourselves. And that's the other tip that I wanted to share as well is, take time to study yourself, figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. For me, I mentioned sleep. I know that if I have, some sort of grief presentation, and I'll get lots of rest for the 18th. But I know that if I have to deal with clients or if I have a presentation on grief or something, I need to make sure I'm rested, because I am more susceptible to my emotions during those times, right? And so so that's the other thing. For those individuals who've gone through the holiday seasons without their loved one for a while, take a step back and look at what's happened over those holidays. What were some of the triggers? What are some of the things that helped you? Because you can employ those things in your sort of coping toolbox to help you move on.
Excellent. Great advice. And thank you for sharing your story as well.
Thank you.
When grief was introduced to me, I was told there's a 5-stage grieving process. Mm-hmm. And while it sounds a little ludicrous almost to fit grief into a box of 5 stages to go through, and understanding, okay, I might get to the next stage, but I might just go back to the last stage, and it's waves of emotions basically we're going through. What is the process like? Is it a 5-step thing? Is it just different for everybody?
Yeah. And let me sort of give the background on the 5, stages of grief. So there was a theory that was developed by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I think she was a psychiatrist or psychologist that she, I think, believed worked in a hospice setting. And so she dealt with, a lot of people that were approaching death.
Right.
And so the stages of grief that those individuals, as they prepared to sort of go through that, die, those were some of the stages that she, identified. There was the bargaining, right? Like trying to bargain with God, anger, depression, and then there's acceptance depression. Once you realize that there is no bargaining, there is no, this is going to happen. There's the depression that sets in. And then finally there's the acceptance of, okay, I'm dying, mm-hmm. right? But I think what happened over time was individuals realize that, this is similar somewhat to what the grief, people go through with grief. But the one thing that I do want to stress is that there is really no stages that individuals, have to go through. Grief is one of those things that it's like a roller coaster if you think about it. 1 minute you may be feeling one emotion and then you may not. And again, it goes back to that thing about it being a unique experience, right? The fact that you may not experience anger. You may not experience depression. It depends on the relationship that you had with the individual as well. So there's so many factors to consider when you're talking about grief. And so the grieving process is one that you have to approach as an individual basis. And that's what I do with my coaching, with coaching clients. It's an individual. Like, what does it look like for you? And what do you need at this stage of wherever you're at? And not, with a structure sort of thing, because everyone is so different.
Yeah, I understand. It's thank you for explaining that, because I was a little curious, and as you said, not everybody's going to go through that process as it might have been introduced to people, and all those stages and steps. We do have to go to our 1 p.m. news headlines. I'm not sure if the ladies want to stay a little longer. They're welcome to. So while I know we have other guests that are coming, so I'm welcome to have these ladies here still. I'm glad that they're going to stay. Thank you. And let's go to the news headlines.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Lawmakers this week passed the Public Service Pensions Amendment and Validation Bill after Deputy Governor the Honourable Franz Manderson tabled the bill in the House on Wednesday. Specifically, the bill amends the definition of credited rate of return to make sure it complies with what's being used by the administrator of the Public Service Pensions Board. In international news, Ghana is demanding that all adult travelers arriving in the country provide proof of full vaccination effective from midnight, December 12th. Ghanaian citizens and residents abroad are exempt for up to 2 weeks, but will be required to get jabbed upon landing at the airport. The authorities say they are concerned about a surge of infections over the festive period. These measures appear to be some of the strictest in the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin has been hardening his rhetoric over the situation in Ukraine, saying the war in the country's east looks like genocide. Russian-backed rebels have been fighting Ukrainian troops there since 2014, and tensions have been growing as Russia amasses troops on the border. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden discussed recent talks with Mr. Putin in a call to his Ukrainian counterpart. There are fears that Russia is planning to invade Ukraine, which Russia denies. A U.S. appeals court has rejected a bid by former President Donald Trump to block Capitol riot investigators from accessing his White House records. Mr. Trump, a Republican, has argued that his past communications are protected by executive privilege, under which presidential files can be kept secret. But President Joe Biden has waived executive privilege on the documents. Lawmakers are trying to find out if Mr. Trump had foreknowledge of the riot, which took place on January 6th. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. In studio this afternoon, I have Carleen Bramwell and Rhonda Cornwall. We are talking about coping with grief and loss over the holiday season. Rhonda just shared her story of how she became a certified grief coach, and she has a company called Hope's Dwelling, which helps people deal with grief, really. And she just shared her story of how it started, and we'd given a couple of other tips on how you can support people that are going through grief during the holiday season. And I want to know, is it, culturally speaking, is it part of our culture here in Cayman to not talk about grief so much with one another?
Yeah. Carleen?
No, go ahead.
Well, I think I wouldn't even say it sort of localize it to Cayman, but I think it's a proper Caribbean thing to not just grief, but emotion and mental health, period.
Yes.
I think we're taught to sort of deal with your own business,
And
privately.
stuff it.
Yes, and stuff it. Yeah, exactly. And so when we are faced with things that are beyond our ability to cope, then, we find other creative ways to deal with our emotions and what we're going through, because we don't feel like we have permission to deal with the emotion or to say, I'm hurting, I'm sad, I'm feeling what I'm feeling. We find other ways to deal with it that are more acceptable. Like one of the main ones is, becoming a workaholic, right? Just pouring yourself into work. And that's accepted by society. No one stops to think, well, this individual is working all these hours because they're trying to avoid time with themselves,
Right.
or avoid being around their family because that reminds them of the grief. And that's applaud. But in essence, what we're doing is setting people up for eventually a fall, because whether we want to or not, our grief is going to always be with us. And at one point, it's going to hit us. And I'll give a quick little example of that in myself. So when my father was going through his treatment for cancer, I took the first sort of month to support him, and I was all in supporting him. I did not deal with myself, and I knew that I was, obviously feeling, everything because of what he was going through, but I didn't deal with it. I threw myself into supporting him and everyone else. And when I returned home, to go back to work, the first day, I'm rushing to get to the office. I reversed out of my driveway and ran right into my fence.
Oh, wow.
And I got out of the car, I looked at the damage to my car and just had a meltdown. And it had nothing to do with the car.
Mm-hmm.
It had everything to do with those,
pressures.
Yeah, just the emotions that were in me that I hadn't released, that I hadn't dealt with. And I knew it at that point. I knew exactly because, again, I because of my training, I understand these things and I knew what I needed to do. And that was actually one of the things that helped lead me down the road to trying to get, figuring out about grief and all this kind of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
so what did you do?
Well, again, at that point, I was like, okay, I got to get it together, got to go to work. And that's another tip as well, right? There are times when we can't deal with our grief, right? Because we do still have to function in life. And so there are times when you have to say, okay, I'm going to give space to my grief at the end of the day. When I'm at home or when I can meet with a friend or, I meet with a counselor or coach or whoever, that I can process what I'm feeling. Because we still have to function in life. Our grief can't just take over our lives kind of thing. But we have to give space to it.
What does that mean, to give space to your grief?
So it means cry if you need to cry. It means
I'm crying in the studio right now. It's a very emotional topic, so I'm hoping that Susan keeps the camera off me the whole time. But please explain.
Yes.
What does it mean to give your grief space?
To hold your space with your grief is to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, to allow yourself to think what you're thinking, and to know, and do so without judgment. It's okay for me to cry because I'm, missing my loved one, or it's okay for me to feel what I'm feeling, and not try to hide it or mask it or try to soothe myself in some way that I'm not going to deal with it. And so I think we just have to find safe spaces that we can do that. And that's part of the whole process of how we deal with our grief, how we cope with it.
Right. And just to say, just coming from that sort of gender affairs perspective as well, we have to realize also that, yes, people deal with grief differently. And even between the different sexes as well, there may be a tendency to also deal with emotions differently. I mean, as a Caribbean people, as Rhonda started off by saying, which was the same thing I was going to say, that, as a Caribbean people, we don't tend to do enough with our emotions. pay enough attention, and hence sometimes it becomes unhealthy in how we express it, and then it goes into the society in different ways and so forth. So I think it's important that we recognize that and try to actually change it, because if it's not working for us, then it's not working for us.
Right.
And I could go off on a whole different tangent about, the fact that actually this is the last day of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Okay.
And a lot of it's that sort of emotions that we have not learned to deal with that then is expressed in some of the ways that we treat each other.
Right.
It
manifests in another way.
So all of these things are interrelated. And I think that the more as a society we become aware of that and do something about it and realize that it isn't helping us, then the better off that we'll be as a community.
Excellent. I think it's wonderful that you are having this session for people to join that are experiencing grief, and as you said, Carleen, it's the first that you know of that's not like Jasmine has one. I think I could be wrong, but I think the Bethesda Counseling Center also used to have some grief groups throughout the year. I'm not sure if that is still continuing with them. But to have this one, especially now with some heightened deaths that are happening, the increased numbers of deaths, I should say, it's a big deal. So we're looking at the seminar that we're here discussing. This is what really where we're getting down to the bottom line about dealing with grief and loss during the holidays. If you're experiencing this, definitely check out this seminar. It is on Saturday, December 18th from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. And it's a free session. I'm going to take a wild guess, Rhonda, and say you are the grief specialist, which is great.
Yes.
How easy it is to speak with you, and I'm sure the people there will it'll be a good experience for them. They'll leave learning a lot and hopefully having a little bit more peace and knowing what direction they should go in. This is for people who have dealt with a loss of a loved one, a family member. It could also be the loss of a job. So, the grief can be, as explained, differently. It doesn't have to be somebody who may have just died that It could be the loss of a job, loss of a relationship.
Yeah.
So it's also open to adults of any age and stage of life. It will be at Parcel 110, which is 40 Cardinal Avenue. It's above almost Mac and La Perfumerie. Right in between there, there's these doors that lead to some office spaces. So that's where you're looking for. And group size is limited because we got the COVID thing going on. But you can also join by, I'm going to guess, Zoom, because there is a virtual session, right?
Yes.
For those interested to register, they can do so by this coming Wednesday, December 15th. They can do so by email. And you're going to contact carleen.bramwell2@gov.ky. Or you can call, text, WhatsApp at 926-0143. I got those details.
Yes, you did. Well done.
All right.
And I'd just like to say that this is in collaboration between the Gender Affairs Unit and the Department of Children and Family Services, because as we talked about before, it's this, obviously this issue can affect anybody at any stage, at any age, etc. And hence there will also be those supports from DCFS. So, again, we talked about the fact that things can be triggered. So even within those sessions, we like to know that there is somebody else there, so that when Rhonda is speaking, there is also those supports. So I myself will be there, and also another social worker as well. So there will be those supports as well.
Okay, excellent. And any last words that you'd like to leave for our listening audience?
Well, before I do that, I do want to take the opportunity to thank both of those, government departments for recognizing the need for this, because again, we can only, and as a grief coach, I can only sort of touch so many lives, but to have these departments come along and say, yes, we need to have a broader reach. That's great, because there are people who need that support, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this, to be able to support what they're wanting to do as well. But again, I just want to, leave everyone with just the thoughts that, if you are grieving, to know that grief is a normal reaction to loss, And so there's nothing wrong with you for grieving. And you would do yourself a great favor, I think, and those that you love and support as well, by learning more.
Yes.
So coming out, and if you're someone who wants to learn how to support someone, the session's going to help you with that as well.
Great.
Because I will share things that you can do. And there will be those what to say and what not to say. Because we know that it's like walking on eggshells, right? You're not sure what to do. And sometimes, people say things out of good intentions, but it ends up being very hurtful. And so there will be a segment on that as well, in terms of just learning how can you support someone that's grieving. So I look forward to hopefully being able to meet with others that are needing the support and being able to, interact with them.
I hope, and I think you definitely will get it. I know there's a lot of people out there grieving. We've had some, as I said, increased deaths, and a lot of people they don't know how to deal with it, and a lot of people that need to learn how to deal with it and how to support others. I just want all our listeners to know as well that Rhonda is a certified grief coach. She has a company called Hope's Dwelling. So even if you don't want to go to this group session, understandable, you can book a private session with Rhonda. Private. Nobody has to know you're getting any coaching to help you get through a grieving process. So if you are somebody that is listening that thinks, I need to just mind my own business. I've been raised not to share this, these feelings and thoughts with anybody, not to talk to anybody about this. If you're somebody who does think like that, know that nobody has to know that you're getting any sort of help to get you through something. And we all rely on a little bit of help from our friends and experts out there that are there to give it to us. So a reminder again, the info session is on Saturday, December 18th. It's Coping with Grief and Loss During the Holidays, and you're going to be hearing from Rhonda Cornwall, and Miss Carleen Bramwell will also be there. And that email address again is carleen.bramwell2@gov.ky. If you're interested in signing up, please do so before Wednesday, December 15th, or you can WhatsApp her at 926-0143. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed having you. It was a good conversation. I know I was super frazzled coming in and settling, but I think we got some great information that our community needs to hear right now.
You.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Thank you. And we're going to go to a commercial break.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Darby Bernard Tibbetts, MBE. Bernard Tibbetts has spent his life serving the people of Kimmebrack. In his youth, he communicated with the island's ships by radio telephone, keeping seamen in touch with their families. He later became a wireless operator and was transferred to Cable and Wireless when it took over telecommunications in the Cayman Islands. In his 45 years working in communication, he undertook private study, enabling him in his spare time to do photo processing and repair the island's cars, trucks, radios, refrigerators, and air conditioners. He also established a family retail business. He served as president of the Kimmebrack High School PTA, director of Kimmebrack Power and Light Company, deacon of Stake Bay Baptist Church, trustee of Little Cayman Baptist Church, and member of the Brack's Hospital Building and Development Committees. In 1983, he was honored by receiving the MBE directly from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Mr. Bernard sings and plays music and has written a number of gospel songs and tracks, as well as a paper about life on Kimmebrack before the modern era.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
CG Britk would like to wish our clients, their families, our staff, and our communities a happy holiday. In this time of celebration, let us remember what this past year has taught us. That we can be in different rooms, different homes, or on different islands, yet never feel apart. Because we are here for each other and stronger together. We look forward to the new year, to serving your insurance needs, and to always putting people first. Happy holidays from our CG Britk family to yours.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And in the first part of our show, we had Carleen Bramwell, who's with the Gender Affairs Unit. She's a senior policy advisor, and to me, she was more of a celebrity because she does a whole lot of work in government and the community. And you got to get to know Carleen and also Rhonda Cornwall of Hope's Dwelling. She's a certified grief coach. We were discussing about coping with grief and loss during the holiday season. And Rhonda gave a tremendous tip in if you know that somebody is dealing with grief. The number one tip that she gave was to first ask that person how you can support them. Everybody is different. Everybody needs support in different ways. So the best thing to do is ask somebody. And I think we all know somebody right now who is dealing with some grief and loss over the holiday season. In our next segment of Talk Today, we're going to be talking about suicide awareness and prevention and how we as a community can better support those struggling with their mental health. We've been going through a lot in the past 2 years with the pandemic. There's been job loss, a tremendous job loss within the community. There's been a lot of pressure with those that have been able to keep their job still within their community. Maybe now they're the only person working in their family and they have to provide for everybody and perhaps another family member. There's a lot that people are going through that's not really being discussed. And how can we better support each other and have a better understanding and awareness? Suicide is something people don't like to talk about. I know definitely in Caribbean culture that we don't talk about this. This isn't something to discuss. You know, coming from friends that I've talked to that have grown up in Cayman or another Caribbean island. Country, I should say. So it is a sensitive topic for our listeners and it could be triggering. But the reason that I wanted to continue with this discussion today is because earlier this week, the community did lose a young man. The police reported the death as they came upon a unresponsive man. It wasn't confirmed that it was suicide, but from what was shared on social media sites by people who knew the young man, friends, it's pointing towards suicide. So while we want to be as respectful as possible to the family, I think it's important that we do have a discussion on being aware of suicide and how you can help prevent it. How do you grieve when somebody you know has gone through suicide? And are we really aware of the statistics that are out there? about who is feeling suicidal, who might be having suicidal tendencies, ideologies, so ideations. So it's something that it's going to be triggering, but it's an important thing to talk about. And the thing that mostly sat on my mind that I was greatly upset about this week was being on social media and seeing the comments coming from some people asking certain social media pages to post their comment. That comment that really triggered me was, well, why didn't this boy just change his job? Why didn't he just do something else? And that is so insensitive and damaging, because it's not that easy. It's absolutely not that easy. There's so many reasons as to why he didn't, if he was feeling pressured in his workplace. It's a hard thing. So in saying that, I wanted to steer the conversation in a direction that can be more supportive as to how we can get a better grasp of why people might be feeling the way they are, how we can help support them, how we can help push them into, whether it's counseling, whether it's somebody that they can talk to, whether it's a change of their mindset and habits, lifestyle, however we can support people. What do we have to do as a community to come together and really care and be there for one another? So far with me, I know we're waiting for another guest in studio, but so far I have joining me, I have community psychiatric nurse with the HSA, Dimna Carton. Good afternoon and welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Kathy. I feel I'm sitting very back from the mic here. Let me just, is that okay?
You're good now.
Oh, okay, cool. Yes, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I had a conversation earlier that had me a little tear-jerked, so I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be the same, almost on that same vibe. But it's an important conversation for us to have.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very important conversation to have. And of course, at this time of the year, we tend to think of Christmas as being a very happy time, a very joyful, but actually it also involves a lot of stress for some people. So it's important that we acknowledge that. And the challenges that some people have perhaps faced in the last year and continue to face. And, none of us know what's around the corner, right?
We don't. It's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that uncertainty, I think, is something that people aren't dealing with very well either, and it's understandable.
Yeah, but I think we have to, I'm forever positive, right? I'm forever hopeful, but we have to see uncertainty in a positive way and believing that better days are ahead. We've got this far. We are resilient. We're strong, and we're going to go further.
I absolutely agree with you, and with the implementation of certain things. And one of them you're going to talk about in this segment with us here. But more resources for people, more opportunities, more areas people can go and talk to others about how they're feeling, whether it's a foundation, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a family friend or a member, whether it's an app that they might use to seek help. We have to give people the opportunity and the availability, the resources to do so. So I know that you are very much a part of creating the mental health line, correct, for the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
Could you give us your background, your involvement with that?
Okay, well, it's not such a long story, but I'll give you the background. Fortunately, in July of 2019, I had gone off and done some training with PAHO, and it was about regional assistance disaster management and from a mental health perspective, right? Because we all know, we speak of, the physical assistance, we speak of medical help, but we never actually address the needs of mental health. So something that PAHO really wanted to emphasise was building capacity for mental health and for services in the emergency situation. And one of the things that we were charged with to do following a second week of training in Barbados was to come back to our country and to get a seat at the table on the Hazard Management National Emergency Operation Plan. Well, Kathy, you can imagine that was a hell of a charge, right? And I certainly felt intimidated by it, even though, we're very fortunate in the Cayman Islands that we have access to so many things and so many people, people that we wouldn't access at a bigger level.
Right.
So as luck would have it, I believe that Danny was meeting with one of the senior policy advisors in the Ministry of Health, and they were talking about hurricane shelters and the provision of mental health care in these shelters. Well, they didn't know that actually there's 9. They knew that there was 9 emergency medical shelters, but they didn't realise that there was a mental health professional stationed in each of those during a hurricane or during a storm, right?
There is a mental
there
health.
Is.
Okay.
Yeah, they're part of the medical cadre, right? So anyway, she said, "Oh, you should speak to Dimna because she'll be able to advise you." Well, Danny, being the great resource and the great character that she is, quickly jumped on board and wanted to meet. So I met with them, and then this raised some other issues and how we could better prepare people, better prepare, other shelters that aren't emergency shelters and assist people. And then simply on the back of that, we had the earthquake. Right. And of course, Danny called me for some assistance to go on the radio and speak about anxiety and how people were coping or not coping and so forth. And then then COVID happened, and before you know it, the NEOC was up and running, and for the first time, the Cayman Islands had a mental support at the table in that. So that's really how it happened. That was how. I see you looking at the clock. So. I feel like you're probably getting a bit more information than you asked for.
No, you're fine. You can.
Okay.
We're going to put the commercial break back a little bit, so no problem.
All right. So then, of course, when everything kicked off with COVID, and we realised that there was a lot of anxiety in the community, there was a lot of people that would be facing some significant hardship because there was changes in job, so there was changes in relationship, there was changes in infrastructure. I mean, COVID has affected everything. Okay. So I thought, right, well, there was many things that we did do, but I thought, right, we need to put together a helpline so that people can ring this, that they can access care, and they know what to do. There were many people out there who'd never had a mental health problem before, who'd never known anybody who'd suffered, but suddenly there was this happening. So that's where it was born from, and I'm pleased to say that it was set up as a collaboration between public and private partnership, in particular with Flow and with Digicel, who gave us the line, and who then Digicel very kindly still operate the lines to this day. So we have a technical guy called Shavran, who's really fantastic, who changes our schedule and puts people on. So at the minute we have people on leave, so that all needs to be shifted and changed around, but he's just amazing. And we also got digital mobile phones from Digicel to allow the line to go remotely, because for the first week it was at my desk, and you can imagine it was like, is the phone going to ring? But then of course I'm trying to do work and other people were coming in to man it. So it is still running. It runs 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday. It's been fairly quiet actually in the last few months. We on average maybe get about, maybe 3 to 4 calls a week. But those 3 to 4 calls are very important calls. And whether we get 1 call or 50, it's really important that people know that the service is there. So it continues to run. We have a small cadre of folks, and the mental health helpline is certainly not going anywhere. Now that it has been born, it is staying put. And in times of national emergency, any unprecedented events, or during hurricane storms, it will run 24/7. So we're very fortunate.
All right, excellent. Thank you. You need to provide us with the number. We need to give that to the people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And right now we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back from the commercial break, we also have Dr. Erica Lamb. And Dr. Lamb is representing in this phone call with us the Alex Panton Foundation. She's the head of Clinical and Education Committee and the clinical consultant for the Alex Panton Foundation. So quick commercial break, and we'll be back with both of our guests.
Are you planning a social, an office party, or event over the holiday season? Make the most of your holiday party and leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go, with the option of a 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. Cater your holiday parties with Subway. Visit subway.ky for menu options. Subway, eat fresh.
We may be in Christmas shopping mode, but 'tis the flu season too. Savannah Pharmacy has immune system boosters for the entire family with a range of vitamins and supplements. Their knowledgeable and courteous pharmacists are always available to offer the best advice and products. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
More ways to win big this Christmas. The more you watch, listen, and stream your favorite Digicel apps, the more chances you have to win from thousands of prizes. Enter to win the grand prizes of US $10,000 cash, US $5,000 cash, or a Digicel family pack with 4 smartphones and free service for a year. Simply listen to your favorite Christmas carols in D-Music, watch movies in Play Go, live sports in SportsMax, or connect with friends in BIP and join BIP Rewards channel for daily prizes. Claim your guaranteed prize every Saturday. Shake to win in the My Digicel app today. Digicel, better together this Christmas.
Shopping local just got tastier. Save the date, Saturday, December 11th. Pure Art Gallery and Gifts. Treats for shoppers. Indulge in your island favorite Tortuga cakes and treats for the kids. Gorgeous local jewelry, household items, paintings, prints, ornaments. Perfect for that secret Santa gift. And to all of the island Santas shopping for Mrs. Claus, couldn't be any easier. The charming Cayman Cottage Pure Art Gallery and Gifts on South Church Street is open 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday for your holiday shopping in Grand Cayman.
Stay clean, stay safe, hey man. Reflection sells gallons of sanitizer for only $25. Buy 2 clip-on sanitizers for just $5. Reflections has the best KN95 masks or reusable cloth masks, and you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections. Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of absolute exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low we can't say them on the radio.
Feeling safe in your community is paramount to overall well-being. At the Security Center, we've been securing businesses, home, and infrastructures for over 20 years. This year, we're proud to receive the Global Seal of Approval from the International Organization of Standardization for our products, services, and operations, making the Security Center the first security firm in the Caribbean to achieve this level of certification. When it comes to putting security first, think Security Center, protecting your world 24/7.
The Ministry of Education invites eligible Caymanians to apply for overseas government scholarships for the 2022-2023 academic year. To apply for an overseas government scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship programs, please visit the recently upgraded scholarship application portal at www.moescholarships.gov.ky. Applications close on Monday, 31st of January, 2022.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller. I'm filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks this afternoon. And in studio with me at this time, I have a community psychiatric nurse with the HSA, Dimpna Carton. And we were just discussing the mental health helpline, which was set up under Dimpna's duration here so far, which hasn't been awfully long. So I'm very proud of what you have been able to accomplish with this helpline. The number is 1-800-534-6463. That is the mental health helpline number. And on the phone with us, we also have Dr. Erica Lamb, and she's representing the Alex Panton Foundation, head of Clinical and Education Committee and the clinical consultant for the Alex Panton Foundation. Good afternoon, Dr. Lam. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And as explained, we had a brief conversation via email this week. You know why I wanted to have the show. And I thought it was very important that while we did have a loss that's pointing to suicide in the community earlier this week by a young man around maybe 20 years old, it's something that, you know, people are expressing their thoughts and their opinions, but I think that people need to just be a little bit more informed on how to be more sensitive towards it, and then how to also recognize what could be signs of suicide or depression in people. And in saying that, I'm hoping you can start off our conversation and letting us know what the difference between somebody perhaps being sad or depressed or suicidal, what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Feeling sad or kind of low in mood is a state, is an emotions, right? Is very valid. As a human being, we ought to have different and variety of emotions, depending on the context, depending on our thoughts. And sadness and feeling low is a way of us experiencing our context and expressing our emotions. It's very normal, and it's like a wave. You know, emotion can come, emotion can go. The same as suicide ideation. Suicidal ideation is experienced very differently by people. Everyone experiences it quite uniquely, and it can kind of build over time, depending on the intensity, depending on the nature and the content of the ideation. And it features in hopelessness, unbearable pain, not being able to kind of resolve things, feeling very desperate, and sometimes it features in physical numbness and people will be better off without me, and things like that. And it can also be fleeting. It can also be kind of intrusive. It can be quite intrusive. That comes in and it can go, and it's another way of expressing emotions as well.
Interesting. So if you're having suicidal ideations, it doesn't have to be constant thoughts.
No. It's like any other thoughts, right? You can be preoccupied with it. You can be feeling very, very overwhelmed with it. Or you can feel that there is no other way around, and constantly it's kind of ruminating in your mind. It could be, but a lot of the time it could be a fleeting thought that comes in. And when your situation change, and when your assumption or your perspective or your outlook change, then your thought changes as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for explaining. People can be chameleons. People can be very, very good at hiding what they're going through, or maybe hiding's not the right word. They just don't express themselves and their emotions. So really everything's inside. So if you're concerned about somebody's behavior, what are some of the signs to look for if we think somebody might be taking their life?
Yeah, they could be talking about it. You know, they could be talking about it, planning about it, be preoccupied with the idea of ending it, or feeling very hopeless, helpless, feel that they cannot cope with any intense emotional pain. There's a sudden change in behavior, sleep pattern, eating patterns. They're functioning, you know, if they're not going to school, they're feeling withdrawal, they are not functioning at work, you know, easily overwhelmed, is feeling kind of not able to cope, or very anxious, or very depressed. The kind of the warning sign are if they are obtaining means to actually follow through their ideation. Being withdrawal, they are constantly kind of in the hypo-arousal, feeling very fatigued, talking about being a burden, you are better off without me, using substance or alcohol as a way to numb their feelings, engaging in risky or dangerous behavior, giving away their belongings, writing goodbye notes, neglecting their physical appearance, or saying goodbye to people. Those are your immediate warning signs, and they need immediate help. And I believe you and Ms. Dibner has already talked about how to, use the A&E, use the mental health helpline, and getting in touch with mental health professional as well.
Sometimes signs aren't always so obvious. And you mentioned a lot of them right there, so I assume it's not going to be every single one of those signs, but it could be a combination
Yes.
of them, right?
Absolutely. But it's this is actually a good opportunity for me to say that there's a bit of a myth about don't talk about suicide, but actually the research indicated that when you talk about it with someone, you cannot. This is the thing. If someone don't have a suicidal ideation, you cannot inject it in their brain. You cannot kind of tell them and then they have a suicidal ideation and follow it through. But the research has indicated that the common factor of suicidal ideation is the sense of loneliness, sense of desperation, sense of hopelessness, and not feeling belong to anybody. So therefore, no one is going to miss me if I'm gone. So the research has indicated that actually it reduces significantly the risk if we are able to talk openly and ask kind of open questions. For example, what do you think is going to happen to this and that? Tell me a little bit more about it. What have you been thinking about this? How would you feel? What do you think is going to happen next? Are you having, these thoughts? How intensive are they? What is your plan? Have you ever felt like you want to end your life? I know these are really kind of quite intensive, can feel very intrusive kind of question, but actually if someone are at risk by having those conversations, can bring those thoughts into the forefront of their mind. And I'm sure all of us would have some experience. Sometimes we have these kind of ideas or some thoughts or some ideas, and when we speak it out loud, you kind of oh, that doesn't sound so good anymore. And it's the same kind of concepts, with suicidal ideation. Is that if we're able to talk about it, it's like you name it to tame it. So we strongly encourage people, if you have see some of this warning sign, you get a bit of that kind of gut feeling, please talk to that person, ask open questions so that you can help the other person to get the right help.
So from your experience, are you seeing people more so talk to their friends or family about how they are feeling? Are we seeing a rise in that? Because we can specialize in young people. Right. The trend hasn't actually changed, I have to say. Even though we have more access to social media, the trend is still the same. You would have a certain portion of the young people who will externalize and who will go and seek out and who will talk about this, and you will have a certain population of young people feeling too shamed, feeling too withdraw to be able to talk about this, and we do see quite a bit more posting on social media, and we do see some kind of minority kind of group in social media where young people do gravitate towards those signs, which make it quite risky, I have to say, because some of those signs are not sites are not kind of monitored by adults or professional, and with the greatest intention that sometimes might not provide the right amount of resource or advice to those who express suicidal ideation. So we need to watch out for those things as well. Oh, absolutely, and just a misunderstanding of suicide. And like I said, that's the reason that I wanted to have the show, because of what I was seeing on social media. And there's also a lot of bullying that can happen on social media. And while, for example, Instagram is one of the medias that they've tried to implement some restrictions, so you can't say necessarily everything that you want to say if it's going to be mean or derogatory or threatening or insulting to people Instagram will give you a warning that this may go against their guideline. Are you sure you want to go ahead with that comment? And if you do, they might throw you in Instagram jail and you can't access your social media for a little while. But in terms of suicide, so what I was seeing was just people not understanding why the young man that apparently took his life this week, why didn't he just do something else? And it just seemed that, okay, maybe the person who actually made that comment doesn't understand, first of all, what that person who is suffering, what they're really going through. And they don't understand where that person can go. Maybe they need to know themselves how to better support and speak to somebody that might be going through this. Because I know if Dimpna and I are friends and we're just talking about mental health struggles and she might make a comment and saying, I don't know why anybody would want to kill themselves. It's so selfish. I might not want to confide in her whatsoever. So even as a friend, if somebody's confiding in you and saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling, how do we manage that confidence? How do we best support them? At that point, do I go to somebody like you, Dr. Lam, and say, hey, I think my friend might take their life? What's the best way we can support them while still trying to maintain confidence?
Yeah. And, we talk quite a bit about how to offer emotional support and, how do you kind of do that effectively as a community? Because not all of us are trained, as a psychologist or therapist or counselor, right? And you don't actually need special training to show someone that you care about them. Like I said before, the research and the literature has actually indicate what significantly reduce the risk of suicide or following through a suicidal ideation is helping the person feel included, reduce that isolation, reduce that hopelessness. So the person who you're actually closest to, who are kind of your neighbor, who you sit next to you, you might actually have a better connection than someone who you never met before, as a counselor or therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist, right? So how to offer emotional support effectively? In the literature, it say, listen, simply give someone the space to talk and listen to how they are feeling. The question about what is wrong with you, like you said, is quite judgmental. It shuts people off. Yeah. And that I know, as human beings, as us, who are instinctively solution focused, we always want to know what is wrong so we can fix it. Right? Because that increases our survival. And the problem with social media, like you have indicated before, is that you can make a very impulsive comment very quickly, and then you can turn your phone down. You don't have to see the emotional response or the facial expressions or the body gesture in front of you. You just type, put a few words in, and then your phone still looks the same. Right. And that is the danger of providing or talking about emotional topics in social media kind of platform, because you're lacking that introsubjective, you're not seeing the other person's response. So, and that kind of listen empathically, think about, like you said, where that person come from, what has happened to them, rather than what is wrong with them. It is more effective when it comes to providing emotional support.
Oh, great tips. Thank you, Dr. Lam. We hold on to your thought. I hate to cut you off, but we do have to go to a commercial break, so hold on to your thought, please, and we'll be right back with Dr. Lam and Dipna Cardin.
Savannah Pharmacy. Shop local and get a head start on your Christmas shopping. For ladies' handbags, clothes, shoes, fragrance, candles, and cosmetics with the newest Farmhouse Fresh line of skincare. For the gentlemen, clothes, shoes, fragrances, gift sets, and toys and games for the kids. Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs. And convenient opening operating hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
The technology sector is forecast to be one of the fastest growing industries in the next decade, with more jobs available than skilled people to fill them. Enterprise Cayman is helping to fill this void and grow the next generation of Caymanian innovators, giving young people access to high-quality learning experiences with the opportunity to pursue careers in technology and innovation sectors. Learn to code, how product development works, enter professional competitions, access high-tech resources, network with special economic zone industry professionals, and much, much more. Visit enterprisecayman.ky to find out more. Brought to you by Cayman Enterprise City.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
20 years.
Remember when Crew Road had no median and Linford Pearson was only 2 lanes?
We do.
When Dirty Reeds was down the street?
We do.
We have been there for the falls, the growth, and the rise. When your body and mind needed to change, Powerhouse Gym has been here. We've skated with you. Your first date, your daughter's first time on skates, your son's first strike. From football to squash, to karate and hockey, to bowling and concerts, and everything in between.
For 20 years.
So much has changed, some for the good and some not so much. Through it all, King Sports Center has been here for you, for Cayman.
King Sports Center, celebrating 20 years as Cayman's home for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. In studio with me right now, I have community psychiatric nurse with the HSA, Dibna Carton, and on the phone, I have Dr. Erica Lamb, and she's representing the Alex Panton Foundation. We are talking about suicide awareness and prevention and how to support those who might be feeling suicidal or depressed. Dr. Lamb, thanks for joining us on Talk Today. I know I had to cut you off earlier, and I apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't know if you can remember your last thought or point that you did want to make, but...
Yes.
Okay.
There was like 3 kind of tips that I want to kind of share in terms of offering emotional support for someone who perhaps in distress or, expressing suicidal ideation. We talk about, listen, don't make assumption, and, try not to ask the kind of solution-based question, what is wrong with you, but actually hear the story of what has happened to them. Secondly, stay calm. Stay calm, meaning that, yes, it's a very upsetting topic to talk about, to hear, and it can cause a lot of distress because you are a compassionate and empathic human being, and you don't want to see another person suffer. That is why it's dysregulating. And I know, as a psychologist, is that when we feel dysregulated, often we behave in a way either to run away, to avoid it, right, shut it off, or we fight. We might get quite angry, and sometimes that is why we say we might have said something that could be insensitive to others. because we feel, oh my goodness, why did that happen? So staying calm, staying regulated, we need to be able to turn on the mid parts of our brain, our limbic system, the emotional parts of our brain, so that we can connect to the emotional parts of the brain with the person in front of us. It's that kind of right brain to right brain kind of talk. If that person is in the emotional part of the brain, they're very, very dysregulated, and we go in with all the solution, being rational, being logical, it's going to put them off. They're just like, you're not hearing me, you're not getting me, I don't feel good talking to you. But if we actually go in and get even more dysregulated, get very angry or very upset, that person is like, oh no, I can't do this with you because actually this is upsetting you more than anything. But whereas if we are able to kind of just meet that person where they are at, gently and calmly in a regulated manner, to try to bring them down, to de-escalate the situation, hear the thoughts out, name it, to tame it, not making any kind of assumption, and be able to bring the thoughts into the forefront, explore it together. A lot of the time, this is what people need in order to not feel alone and isolated, and to have some sense of a hope.
Now, this is if we're talking to our friends or our loved one about how we're feeling. Now, when you go and speak to a therapist or think, okay, I'm going to try to get some counseling for this, this might be a hard thing to answer, but I think part of the fear for some people, because been there, done that. So I'm also speaking from my own experience. I believe in therapy. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I wish all of us had a private personal therapist we could take with us everywhere. But one of the things when I walked into a session once, before even really saying anything, it was, if you're feeling suicidal, I need to let you know that that's going to go on record. I had what record? So immediately it made me be like, okay, no matter what I'm feeling, I can't actually tell you, my therapist, because I feel threatened that what I do share with you is not going to be between us, and that maybe I'll be locked up somewhere for people watching me. So can you explain that? Why is that said? What is this record that people are told about?
Yeah, I can see what you mean about when therapists or psychologists or counselor or mental health professional or clinician are offering services, we talk about confidentiality, informed consent, meaning that everything that we talk about stays between us in this room. However, if you do talk about something that leads me to believe you or another person might be at risk, we need to do something, because it's in our duty of care to protect you and the public. So therefore, a lot of the time when a person or a young person or an adult or a vulnerable person talking about risk to themselves or others, we do need to do something about it. We cannot just keep it quiet, and that is kind of what we meant. What it's supposed to mean, what it's supposed to mean is that we have a duty of care to do something about this. And what that's something to do often is we will have a conversation with you. We do a risk assessment to understand those things that I kind of talk a little bit about is what happened to you to lead you to this position of distress. What protective factor do you have? How intensive, your thoughts are. Whether you actually have any plan, how vulnerable you are. When we understand that you have protective factors, you have a reason to live for, we want to be able to, on your behalf, reach out to say maybe your partner, or your parents, or your school counselor, or your physician, or your pediatrician, or your coach, and let them know to keep an eye on you. And we will talk about the information that you feel comfortable for us to share. And that is what we meant about our duty of care, to protect you and do something about it. Is us doing a risk assessment and implementing the recommendation to keep you and other people safe. That is what it's supposed to mean.
All right, we have to go to our 2 p.m. news headlines, which is now 2:04 news headlines. I'm sorry, newsroom. Please stay with us.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The University College of the Cayman Islands is reintroducing video production classes to the curriculum in spring 2022, part of which will involve regular online newscasts on UCCI TV. Classes begin January 10th, and students are encouraged to register early before classes fill for the best chance of getting the schedules they want. In international news, 2 doses of a COVID vaccine are not enough to stop you catching the Omicron variant, UK scientists have warned. Early analysis of UK Omicron and Delta cases showed the vaccines were less effective at stopping the new variant. However, a third booster prevents around 75% of people getting any COVID symptom. Scientists have developed a high-tech sleeping bag that could prevent the vision problems that some astronauts experience while living in space. In zero-gravity, fluids float into the head and squash the eyeball over time. It's regarded as one of the riskiest medical problems affecting astronauts, with some experts concerned it could compromise missions to Mars. The sleeping bag sucks fluid out of the head and towards the feet, countering the pressure buildup. Taylor Swift must face a jury trial over accusations that she copied lyrics for Shake It Off from another song. A U.S. judge has refused Swift's request to dismiss the case, saying a jury may find that her 2014 hit copied girl group 3LW's 2001 tune Players Gonna Play. Both tracks feature variations of the phrases Players Gonna Play and Haters Gonna Hate. The judge had previously rejected the case, saying the lyrics were too banal to be copyrighted. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Shopping local just got tastier. Save the date, Saturday, December 11th. Pure Art Gallery and Gifts. Treats for shoppers. Indulge in your island favorite Tortuga cakes and treats for the kids. Gorgeous local jewelry, household items, paintings, prints, ornaments. Perfect for that secret Santa gift. And to all of the island Santas shopping for Mrs. Claus, couldn't be any easier. The charming Cayman Cottage Pure Art Gallery and Gifts on South Church Street is open 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday, for your holiday shopping in Grand Cayman.
Feeling safe in your community is paramount to overall well-being. At the Security Center, we've been securing businesses, home, and infrastructures for over 20 years. This year, we're proud to receive the Global Seal of Approval from the International Organization of Standardization for our products, services, and operations, making the Security Center the first security firm in the Caribbean to achieve this level of certification. When it comes to putting security first, think Security Center, protecting your world 24/7.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller and I have in studio with me this afternoon community psychiatric nurse with the HSA, Dimpna Carton. We just came off of a phone call with Dr. Erica Lamb, and she was representing the Alex Panton Foundation. She's head of Clinical and Education Committee and the clinical consultant for the Alex Panton Foundation. Thank you, Dr. Lamb, for your time, and also to the foundation for organizing for her to join us on a call today, because this was a very last-minute show given what's happened in our community and why I wanted to have the show today. So I'm grateful for everybody who was here to join me. Dimpna, did you want to make any comments to what Dr. Lamb had mentioned?
Thanks very much, Dr. Lamb. It was lovely to hear you on the radio. I wish we could have had you in person with us, but another time. I just want to circle back to something that you had asked, Kathy, and that was about the record when you go to see a therapist, and particularly if you're feeling very unwell, particularly if you're feeling at risk of self-harming, of perhaps thinking that your life is over, it's time to end it, and you were advised that just want to warn you that this will go on record. Unfortunately, it's a poor choice of words, I would say, right? Because what they mean is it goes on their notes, right? It's about their information keeping. It's a resource to say, to document that this is how you're feeling, to ensure that they have assessed you properly, to ensure that they have the right plan of action in place to take care of you, to take care of your needs, to ensure that you're safe. And also moving ahead, perhaps, 2-3 weeks down the road, a month, whatever, when that crisis has passed and you're feeling stronger and you've dealt with the issue, it's a great way to reflect on this is what was happening then, this is how you dealt with it, to remind people of the strengths that they do have. But the record does not go to the police, it does not go to the immigration department, and, unless someone is acutely unwell and acutely ill, and we feel that there's an immediate danger to you or someone else, that would not be acted on. So
thank you.
I hope that reassures you.
It clears things up because I know other people who have been a little daunted by what's going to go on record and what does this mean?
Yeah.
And as you said, especially if you're an expat living in the Cayman Islands, thinking, okay, this record will go to immigration, and is it possible that somebody looking to hire me, when they do reach out to immigration and they're doing their paperwork, is this information that they can obtain from I would assume it's extremely private data.
Yes,
but those were the concerns.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for clearing that part up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think it, what you're saying too, it speaks to the taboo around mental health and the stigma with just mental health issues, mental health needs, feeling unwell, having a crisis, having a diagnosis, and for someone who is feeling suicidal and not able to cope. I mean, unfortunately, these things go back. They go back years, they go back decades, they go back centuries. Right. I mean, they're there from the day dot, right? Because we're all born with physical health, but we're also born with mental health, and it's something that we grow as we age every day. So sometimes some of those difficulties, some of the challenges that we've had from an early age, unless we're given the care, unless we're given the right guidance and support, it can be very difficult to channel. But the taboo and the stigma goes back decades. I could tell many stories about that throughout the world, in fact, and but that's for another day.
Well, the stigma is there, and we were talking about the stigma a little earlier in the earlier segment of the show when we're talking about grief counseling, and those guests at that time mentioned that it's very much a society, Caribbean culture per se, is just to keep it to yourself. I think Carleen Bramwell had said, "Shut it and stuff it," which was just keep it quiet and just keep that to yourself. That's it, and it is a dangerous way of thinking, of raising children. And we need to make people a lot more comfortable to be able to talk to each other. And I think that's I get it. I get it if your family, that they raised you not to talk to other people, but it's not the healthiest way. And we have to understand that perhaps our parents tried the best, but perhaps they also didn't know the healthiest and the best ways to grow us, to raise us.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly fine for us to take a different route and start thinking differently, especially when it comes to our health, our mental health.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, the World Health Organization is often quoted as saying that there is no health without mental health. And that is, it's so true, right? It's so obvious. But the way I like to put it is that this thing in here, this thing called our brain, this thing called our mind, this is the leader of the band. And without anything, nothing is going to operate, right? So we might have strong physical health, but if our mind is not good, and if our mind isn't feeling strong, and that we can cope and that we can face each day and face each challenge, with a positive approach, we are going to struggle. So we need to keep our mental health in good check. And most certainly, I think that mental health, certainly the attitudes towards mental health are changing. And within the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, there's been a very big shift. But yes, prior to that, most people would have said, you don't talk about it, keep it quiet, keep it within the family because it's a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a sign of strength to be able to talk about yourself and your feelings and your needs and your struggles openly. I mean, you don't have to go there and stand at the corner of Eastern Avenue and shout it to the world, but you can share it with friends, with people that you trust, right? Because often it is very intimate information. And sometimes just, sharing a burden, sharing a trouble. Very often people know the answers to their problems, right?
Yes. Well, yes.
Sometimes, and it's just a case of how do you get there?
Right.
So you have the problem and you see the answer, but it's this big bulge in the middle.
Cross that bridge.
That's creating the problem. Right. So, encouraging people to talk, but be mindful of who you talk to. So, people that you trust and that you can rely on.
You had mentioned, it really does start with your thoughts, and thoughts become things. And there's a saying out there that a belief is just a thought you have over and over and over again. So we do have the power, once we realize this, to try to start with the thoughts in our minds and somehow think differently with those thoughts. We have a bad momentum of thoughts going on. To stop it, sometimes the best way is to have a nap.
Yeah.
Take a nap.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll wake up feeling a little bit better. But just to be able to change that momentum.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it'll keep building. It's like a rolling stone. It's just going to gather more and more and more. And what do? You know, that's when you come to a very desperate moment. We have to take our final commercial break in this talk today, and then I'll be back with Dipna Carden, and we're going to continue our talk on mental health and suicide awareness.
We may be in Christmas shopping mode, but 'tis the flu season too. Savannah Pharmacy has immune system boosters for the entire family with a range of vitamins and supplements. Their knowledgeable and courteous pharmacists are always available to offer the best advice and products. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Kirk Freeport's $40,000 Christmas sweepstakes is back. Once again, simply spend $100 at your favorite Kirk Freeport store, and you could win one of 3 $5,000 cash prizes, one of 5 $1,000 cash prizes, and many other great prizes throughout December. All purchases of $100 before noon on Christmas Eve qualify for all remaining prize draws. And don't forget the annual Kirk Freeport Rolex Watch prize draw for all entries, held on January 4th. Full details on KirkFreeport.com. Merry Christmas from everyone at Kirk Freeport.
Merry Christmas from A.L. Thompson's. Are you caught in the rush of Christmas shopping? Find gifts for everyone on your list under one roof at A.L. Thompson's. Head to the outdoors to select gifts for outdoor living, like barbecue grills, smokers, coolers, kayaks, games, pool toys, and beach chairs. Pick up a hammock and a water fountain to create a restful rejuvenation area. Get gift cards in any denomination for those who seem to have everything. Nobody does Christmas like A.L. Thompson's.
It's warm and beautiful outside.
Hello, this is Martha Watler from Radio Cayman's Library Traffic Department.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year.
Wishing you the best for the season, from my family to yours.
Oh, by golly, have a holly jolly Christmas this year.
It is the season of giving, and there is no better place to shop than Penha Perfume, MAC Cosmetics, and Victoria's Secret. Check out our Christmas gifts and collections at amazing prices. Plus, when you sign up for the Penha loyalty card, get 3% back on all your purchases. And while you shop, enter raffles to win major prizes of up to $5,000. Penha, MAC, and Victoria's Secret on 40 Cardinal Avenue, Georgetown. Merry Christmas.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And right now I'm sitting with Dimpna Carton. She's a community psychiatric nurse with the HSA. And you also might recognize her from those mental health videos that happen before the press conferences, the government press conferences that are usually talking about COVID and the reopening phases. So you've seen some messages from Dimpna then, but we have her in studio now and we're talking about mental health, and we had the bit about suicide a little earlier. But this all ties in together. And we had mentioned, yes, there is stigmas here in the Caribbean. We know that, and we're trying to address that as much as we possibly can. But how far do you think that the Cayman Islands has come in recognizing mental health?
I think the Cayman Islands have come a far way in recognising the needs of people who suffer from acute and chronic mental health conditions. You know, I've had I would say the blessing actually, and the genuine luxury of living here for the last 24 years. So I can speak of the changes. And when I first came, we didn't have an acute mental health ward at that time to treat and manage people who were acutely unwell, whether it be from a psychotic episode, from a serious depressive episode, from anxiety, from difficulties and not functioning at home, right? And an array of mental health conditions. And that opened in 2003. And prior to that, you know, patients who were unwell had to be nursed on medical ward. And this was not adequate for either for the patients, and it was unfair to the staff as well. And also, as you mentioned, the taboo and the stigma, you know, people didn't necessarily want to be seen. They didn't want it known. And of course, medical ward was, you know, it was a very open situation at that time.
So the privacy was an issue.
And we feel it is very important to protect people. And you know, the beauty of Cayman is it's a very curious community, and I think that, you know, curiosity is really a wonderful thing, and it's a much needed, it's a very healthy thing in a community, because when we lose our curiosity, when we lose, then we lose everything, because we don't care about people, we don't care about newcomers, we don't care about what's happening, about how people are living. So being a curious community is a great thing. But of course that can bring challenges as well. But anyway, so the mental health ward opened up, and it still needs to grow because we only have 8 beds. And we, for many years, and we don't have, but in the works is the planning and the building of the long stay mental health facility up in East End, down there in the farmland. And it's an absolutely fabulous facility, and it means that many of our patients who are currently overseas in treatment will be able to come home and to live very well and be hopefully some rehabilitated and encouraged to live independently in the community again. We also have the Loud Silent Voices group home, which is down in West Bay, and we have a male and female home, and that's a non-governmental organisation that opened in October of this year, offering 8 beds, so 4 for female, 4 for male. And that is really, it is what it is. It's a group home. We have a house mother, and it's a transition between perhaps being in hospital and not being really able to live independently, or sometimes having struggles to find somewhere to live. And it's a place to go that, you know, will offer you security, will offer you care, but you'll be encouraged to live independently, so you have responsibility for cleaning, for your cooking, if you go to work, but you come back. So these are some of the big changes that we've made. There's also been, you know, the mental health outpatient department has grown at the hospital, but in private practice in the Cayman Islands, we have so many more services now. And, we have so many more services that are open to young people, so children and adolescents. So for a long time, there was a big gap there. And that's a very specialist area in mental health, but we have many services there. So I think we've come a long way, Kathy. We have much more to do. And of course, we have organisations like the Alex Panton Foundation, which is a phenomenal organisation, and is specifically there for young people and teenagers, and offers groups, advice, educational sessions every year. They have a conference. These are tremendous changes, and unfortunately, some of these situations, some of these organisations have been born out of personal challenges. But I think that shows that people are more able to speak about those challenges, about some of the tragedies that have happened, and about the loss that, is ongoing, right? That doesn't ever go away.
Right.
But we know that we're helping someone else from experiencing that particular situation.
And that's the bottom line, is just being able to help. And
Absolutely.
as you mentioned, the many different resources, and letting people know about that. Don't ask the questions about what's wrong with you, why'd you do this?
Yeah.
But there's another way to navigate and go about these things.
Yeah.
So circling back to the reason that we had this conversation was due to the young man who did take his life, allegedly. And it was, again, this is allegedly due to how he was being treated in the workplace, how he felt. Now, aside from just his experience, there's plenty of people who are really struggling in the workplace right now, whether it's increased pressure or whether it's just absolute mistreatment. And this happens to people on work permits. This happens to Caymanians. This happens to everybody. So when it comes to your work having a factor in your mental health. This is going to be a hard question, a bit of a loaded question, but how do we change how mental health is perceived in the workplace?
Okay. Well, I think more and more workplaces are accepting that mental health and mental illness is a real struggle. It is an illness and conditions just like a physical illness, right? And they're becoming more receptive to care and treatment and for accommodating their staff. And I, just a few weeks ago, actually participated in the Chamber of Commerce Open for Business series of webinars. And that was simply, I did that with myself and Shannon Seymour. And it was sort of, helping staff adjusting back into the work environment again, and the uncertainties and the challenges that they might speak of. So I think having someone like a body like the Chamber of Commerce recognise that there may be struggles for people with mental health illnesses, mental health problems, and just general worries and stress, right? I mean, none of us are immune to all of this. Everybody will experience something at some point in their life. But it's how you handle it. It's the resources that you have available, and it's the support, and it's the resilience that you've built from within, right, from your previous experiences and so forth. But I think it was wonderful of the Chamber of Commerce to recognise that. So, of course, encourage, and, people, you are allocated so many sick days per year. And, I certainly know in government and the Health Services Authority, we have 10, right?
Right.
And I would advocate that those are not just for someone who is feeling very physically unwell, but if you're feeling very emotionally unwell and you're not focusing, you're not concentrating, you're feeling very overwhelmed, you're feeling low in mood, you are not going to function effectively at work. And that can have major consequences, right? I mean, if you are a clinician, whether it be a doctor or a nurse, and you're prescribing, you're giving, you're administering medication, you're assessing people, if you're not on the ball and giving that 100%, that can be a detriment to the person that you're serving, and it can have consequences. But equally of importance is for anyone who works in any setting, if you're not able to do your job and you're feeling that you're not coping, it has a knock-on effect, right? And then you can try and you can struggle through it. You think, well, I can get up, I can walk, I can move, I can still breathe. What's wrong with me? Get over it. No, those things then can affect your physical health as well. And, you talked about the Rolling Stone earlier, gathering moss. Well, it's just growing and growing and growing until it becomes a further problem. So I do think that employers are better and more understanding of people and their needs. And, it was only a few months ago that I had a phone call from a large construction company on the island who expressed concern about a member of their staff who was out in a construction site up several floors who did not appear well. And they asked what they could do. So I gave them a number of options. And finally I said, do you think it would help if I was to come and see this person at the work site? Is that something that you could accommodate? Is that something that they would be able to do? And they said, that would be fantastic. I didn't know that could happen. Can you go? Anyway, this was amazing because this was a major construction, predominantly a male force, and it was male staff that were calling. Anyway, I was able to go there. I was able to interact. I was able to assess the young man. I was able to go back. He was able to stay in employment. And then, we were able to get him into treatment because, in fact, he did need more. He needed more assistance than just what I could offer. But so that is an example, I think, of the changes that might never have happened a few years ago because they might have said, oh, just get on with it. Or, he felt that he was being picked on and they could have just have laughed and, said, well, it's right, you're this, you're that, whatever, get over it. No, they were incredibly supportive. And also another thing that's been introduced recently is called Mental Health First Aid, and the two current trainers of that are Sylvia Wilkes and Hilton Grace. And they go into places of employment, and it's a 3 to 4 day training, and it's essentially like that we offer first aid training for CPR, for if someone falls down, if someone gets cut. This is mental health first aid. So many employers are actually engaging in that and asking their staff to participate so that we're all better equipped and better able to deal with someone who is just not coping. And finally, it is really okay to say, are you all right?
Right. And it's okay not to be okay.
Exactly. Right.
So I love that. I love that you explained, that you yourself as a community psychiatric nurse can go either to somebody's house or on a site, wherever they are, and speak to that person then. Yeah. And I love that the construction company did reach out to you. What do we do?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Reach out to somebody who knows and see how you can help that situation. Yeah. The fact that there's a 3 to 4 day workshops in recognizing mental health within the work and how to deal with that, fabulous. And considering what has happened in this past week, and it's a season that people tend to take their lives. People can be very depressed around the holidays. No matter the joy that you might be feeling around, there is that going on. And so I don't want to see or hear of more incidents like this, but it's possible that it could happen. And with COVID as well, people are feeling very pressured with work and just being able to provide and survive. So to have those workshops that you said, Sylvia Wilkes and Hilton Grace.
Hilton Grace, yes.
I think that's a huge recommendation that I think a lot of employers should absolutely look into. And I know it's trending. It's a newer thing in North America where you can actually take a mental health day at work. So instead of me using my sick day or vacation day, there's an allotted mental health days that are also a part of the employee's perks or benefits. Do you see Cayman at all moving towards that trend to be able to offer us specifically mental health days aside from the sick days?
Yeah, I do see that there will be changes ahead, Kathy. I feel positive about that because certainly, with the progress that we've made, with the progress that I know is going to be made in the days and the weeks and the years to come, and with a Minister of Health and Wellness who's very engaged in all of this, there's a lot of support, but there's a lot of private groups. There's a lot of, support groups out there like the Loud Silent Voices, which is a support network for families, friends and individuals suffering from mental health illness and conditions. That's run by Miss Jackie Neal. But yes, I do. I feel positive that we've come a long way, and we will go even further. But just on the back of the stress of what you're talking about at Christmas, and mental health has, as I said recently, it's become a bit of a sexy term, right? So everybody's wanting to jump on it and do something. But really, the premise of good mental health and being able to help others is simply about being kind. It's exercising, our Cayman kind. And it's for everybody who lives on these islands to really take care of one another, to reach out, to not be frightened to ask somebody if they're doing all right, if they're struggling. And something that's so vital is please do not make assumptions. Don't make assumptions that just because somebody is looking a certain way, that is presenting a certain way, that is in a certain standing, holds a certain job, that everything's okay with them.
Exactly.
No. They're putting up a front, but those people suffer too. So don't make assumptions and be kind. And, always remember that the mental health helpline is here for you from 9 to 5 until Monday to Friday. The number is 1-800-534-6463. And I just want to quickly say a big shout out to the current cadre. It's a small group of professionals that we have that are involved in the line. And that's Catherine, that's Rick, that's Shari, Larissa, Ken, and we've got someone else hopefully coming on board. We have some people on leave, but and to Shannon Seymour, who was very supportive and engaging with me when the line was up and running, and we're just grateful. But please do not forget that number. If you don't know what to do, and if you're frightened, you're concerned, you just want advice, please ring that line. That's what we're there for. No problem is too big and nothing is too small.
Thank you, Dimpna. That number for the mental health helpline again is 1-800-534-6463. And just to repeat a couple of the tips that Dr. Lamb gave us, if you know somebody that is feeling suicidal, that has these suicidal ideations, and I know there's people out there that are feeling really low right now, do your best, as Dimpna just said, be kind. Dr. Lamb said, just listen to them. Just be somebody that they can listen to. Don't ask the questions, solution-oriented questions like, what's wrong with you? Something more open-ended. What happened, that made you feel this way? How are you feeling? But genuinely asking how a person's feeling and listening to their response and staying calm, because you might feel panicked if a friend is telling you what they're experiencing and feeling. But right now, you're their rock that they're confiding in. So just do your best to stay calm, and remember just to lend an ear, lend support. Be very careful with your words, especially online. Nobody wants to hear your opinion on why somebody might have done something. We want to hear how we can stop this from happening and what we can do to band together to support each other in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you for joining us today on Talk Today. I hope everybody has a safe and positive and joyous Christmas soon coming weekend.
Thank you, Kathy. Happy Christmas, everybody.
Okay.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman, one radio, many people. This is home.